P. Buendia, and our topic for today is about sexual harassment in the workplace, which is actually applicable for the subject industrial psychology. Okay, so what you must know about sexual harassment in the workplace. Before I continue, okay, if you have time, please click subscribe so that you will be able to be updated with the lectures that I am uploading in this channel. Thank you. Alright, so by the end of this lecture, you should be able to understand what sexual harassment in the Philippine workplace is. You should keep in mind the provisions of the Anti-Sexual Harassment Act of 1995, and you should prepare yourself for any possibility in the future, and you should be protected. Alright, so let us define first what is sexual harassment. So according to the dictionary definition or the literary definition of sexual harassment, this is an invited and unwelcome verbal or physical behavior of a sexual nature, especially by a person in authority towards a subordinate as an employee or student. So you should be able to remember that the ascendancy is from a person in authority towards a subordinate. Okay, so that is the definition of sexual harassment. Any other sexual act that are that happened or occurred, let's say for example from employee to employee or student to student, could be considered under acts of lasciviousness, or much worse, could be sexual assault. So technically, according to the Republic Act number 7877, this is committed by an employer, employee, manager, supervisor, agent of the employer, teacher, instructor, professor, coach, trainer, or any other person who having authority, influence, or moral ascendancy over another in a work or training or education environment, demands, requests, or otherwise requires any sexual favor from the other, regardless of whether the demand, request, or requirement for submission is accepted by the object of said act. Okay, so in other words, the sexual harassment is actually uh, it actually occurred, okay, because there is an authority, there is a power over the person who is offended, okay, and it is actually linked with sexual favors, which actually the person do not consent. Okay, now you will see from here, okay, this is what I have mentioned a while ago. The offender is the superior, okay, somewhat with authority, with power, with moral ascendancy, with the offended who is the subordinate. Okay, so in definition of terms, ascendancy means governing or controlling influence. Okay, and sexual does not just involve the act itself. Okay, it doesn't only mean that sexual is having sexual intercourse or coitus. Okay, so but it is anything that has to do with or related to the reproductive organs, or a behavior which is sexually motivated or has sexual desire. So in other words, it has carnal meaning. Okay, so it doesn't have to be the act itself. All right, so later I'm gonna specify to you what are those under this term sexual. All right, so this is it. What are the forms of sexual harassment? Okay, first, it could be physical, malicious touching, acts of lasciviousness, lewdness, overt sexual advances, gestures with lewd insinuation. Let's say, for example, okay, this is physical, right? So, in Tagalog, okay, chinansingan ka. All right. So somebody touch a certain part of your body. It could be a private part. Let's say your breast or your butt. Okay, or your behind. Yeah. So without your permission, without your consent. All right. Okay. Somebody act like as if it's more like frotcherism or rubbing their body against yours. Okay, without your consent. What else? Pointing your breast, pointing your butt with sexual indication or implication, I mean. Okay, so those are some physical forms of harassment. In verbal, it could be a request or demands for sexual favors or lurid remarks. Let's say, for example, um, you walked down the aisle of your office, and then somebody is staring at you. Okay, it could be your boss is staring at you, and then he said, rapsa. Okay, so it was like a sexual implication about your body. Okay, and this kind of remarks, okay, might lead to the use of objects, pictures or graphics, letters or written notes with sexual underpinnings. So it could also be a text message, okay, or SMS. It could be a private message sent to yours with some sexual favors, or let's say for example, it could be a written note, right? Or let's say for example, uh, somebody's somebody sent you a picture, a pornographic picture, or showing the picture of his genital organ. Okay, so these are some forms of sexual harassment. Okay, so according to the Republic Act number 7877, so this is known as the Anti-Sexual Harassment Act of 1995. This is an act declaring sexual harassment unlawful in the employment, education, or training environment and for other purposes. Okay, so who are covered by this act? The workers or the employees. Even the applicants or the candidates for employment are already covered by this act. Okay, students, you students, okay, those undergoing training, institution or education, or trainees, let's say intern, okay, or OJTs, okay, so you are also covered by this act. Who are punishable or held liable in this act? So those who are offensive employer or head, employee who belongs to a higher level, manager or supervisor, agent of the employer, okay? Anybody else who has a certain authority or influence or moral ascendancy over the offended, okay? Any person who directs or induces another to commit any act of sexual harassment, and any person who cooperates in the commission of the act by another without whom it would not have been committed. So, if there is an accomplice, if there is someone, let's say for example, another supervisor who helped, okay, or who is actually a part of that kind of sexual harassment, could also be punishable by the law. Okay, elementary or high school teacher, college or university professor, college or university instructor, coach, or trainer. Okay, so where is this applicable? So this is very specific. This law is very specific in certain workplace, school, any other place of training, institution, or education. Okay, so when is sexual harassment committed? Okay, so in a work-related or employment environment, the sexual favor is made as a condition in the hiring or in the employment, re-employment, or continued employment of the said individual. Okay, let's say for example, okay, if you will allow me to touch your breast, if you will allow me to have a one night stand with you, you will be employed, okay, automatically for this job. So this kind of remarks are implying for sexual harassment, okay, with while asking sexual favor for you in exchange of something that is related with the work. Okay, so it could be an individual favorable compensation, terms of condition, promotion, or privileges. Yeah, let's say for example, I'm gonna promote you if you will allow me to take a video of you, okay, without any clothes on. So, and while you are dancing, let's say, for example, you are dancing in front of me, so I'm gonna give you a promotion and salary increase. So this could be part of sexual harassment. They are using their authority. They are using their power to get that kind of sexual favor. Okay? So, or even refusal to grant the sexual favor that could result in limiting, segregating, or classifying the employee, which in any way would discriminate, deprive, or diminish employment opportunities or otherwise adversely affect said employee. So, it could be a negative impact or a threat, okay, that could be given to the employee or the student. Let's say, for example, okay, I told my student that if you're not gonna send me some pictures of yours wearing tea bag, okay, I'm not gonna pass you in this subject, okay, I will fail you. So these are some kind of negative threats that are used, okay, by the person who is subordinate over the other while asking sexual favors, okay. So, in a work related or employment environment, the above acts should impair the employee's rights or privileges under existing labor laws. The above acts would result in an intimidating, hostile, or offensive environment for the employee. Okay? So, treating the employee unfairly, okay, just because you did not agree with that kind of sexual favor could also be part of the Sexual Harassment Act. Just make sure that you have a documentation of what happened. Okay, just a proof that your the I mean the superior or someone who is superior with you really asked for a sexual favor or did something. Okay, that has something to do with Sexual Harassment Act. So in an education or training environment, okay, so this is against one who is under care, custody, or supervision of the offender. Okay, it is against one whose education, training, apprenticeship, or tutorship is entrusted to the offender. All right. So these are the covered aspect of the Sexual Harassment Act with when it comes to education or training environment. Okay. So when the sexual favor is made a condition to giving a passing grade, this is what I have mentioned a while ago that I gave it as an example, okay, a while ago, but this is actually fitted for this one, okay, or granting of honors and scholarship, okay, let's say you received an indecent proposal for a certain professor that he's gonna give you a mark of uno or one, okay, in one of the subjects that he is handling in your class if you will allow him to have a one night stand with you. So this is another example. Okay? Or the payment of a stipend, allowance, or other benefits, privileges, or consideration, right? So it could be in exchange of money, it could be in exchange of scholarship. Okay, it could be an exchange of allowance or iPhone. Okay, so these are some of the conditions that are under the Sexual Harassment Act. So when the sexual advances result in intimidating, hostile, or offensive environment for the student, trainee, or apprentice. Okay.